It has taken quite some time for me to decide when I wanted to share this story on here. It's my testimony as to how I got to where I was about a year ago or so. I've shared this testimony before at a She Is Social, which is a group of women that just kind of get together and fellowship, and they have all these other things that they do within their community. I had signed up for this counseling group, a therapy group. I remember the title was called Getting Unstuck. And I'm not as active as I used to be, but the way I started off on Instagram was through my little dog named Man, and he was my ESA, and I started to find other people online that had borderline personality disorder. I felt like people couldn't really relate to me, and so I dived into the community of mental health here on Instagram, and my dog account went from a dog account to mental health and kind of meshed with me and Man. And there came a point when Man passed away, and I kind of like held a little bit of a grief space. Then that turned into like a healing space for me. And so that's kind of a little bit of the backstory on how the Instagram came about. But something that's always been really close to my heart is like being able to connect with people and helping people feel like they're not alone. So I'm basically just going to read what I wrote and kind of give more detail. Does anyone else ever notice how detailed God is with the fine print? When he says that he is everywhere and not only in one place, it just blows my mind. And now I'm 42 years old. And the first time that I was introduced to Jesus, I was 14 years old. I met a boy named Henry in high school. And the first time we ever hung out, we walked down to a grocery store and he bought me a Coke from a soda machine. And as he handed it to me, he asked me if I believed in Jesus Christ. Me and Henry share a daughter together. And we had her when we were 16 years old. During the course of our relationship, high school, I was diagnosed at a young age with borderline personality disorder, explosive anger. I had a lot of unstable behavior and severe abandonment issues. At some point, Henry had told me that because of my disorder and the darkness I had endured, that I was built differently. That God saw me as a warrior for the front of the line. I never really understood exactly what it meant at the time, but I always carried it with me. So during that time when we were together, it seemed that no matter what I did, he always loved me and he always forgave me. I've always had like relationship issues to where I just never thought that they were solid. I was very reckless when I was young. I was ridiculous. Anyway, so whenever he had talked to me about Jesus, I was never active in my faith. I think actually whenever we had met, I was completely like a non-believer. It was like neither here nor there. So the fact that he asked me, do you believe in Jesus Christ, was kind of like, what? It was bizarre to me. So it seemed that no matter what I did, he always loved me and he always forgave me. The love that he had offered me was going to play a significant role over the course of my life. It took some time, but at around about 2004, I gave my life to Jesus. On March the 2nd of 2004, he passed away. And the way it all happened, I can't deny that God isn't real. Over the course of the years, as I developed other relationships, I couldn't understand why it seemed that I was so difficult to love. Henry always seemed to love me, even in all my mess, so why was it so hard for everyone else too? As the years went by, I went back into my old ways, and I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew better, because God had already touched my heart. Over the years, I began to struggle more with my mental health. But in 2018, things took a turn for the worse with revisits to addictions, in and out of psych hospitals, and things got really bad. Most times, I never knew how I made it out alive. My mental health had declined so badly that my dog was approved to be my ESA. At the end of 2020, I created a post for free flower vases on OfferUp. A young woman showed up to pick up the vases, and her name was Gina. We connected quite instantly over some stories that we shared, and she kept inviting me to church and sending me text messages. Although I liked it, I did find it quite weird. And when I say that, I mean like, I liked the idea of coming across someone that was strong in their faith. You know, sometimes you can just tell. And she was always sending me like YouTube videos or songs or inviting me to different things. So I saw her again, and I did make mention to her that I was aware that she was sending me invites and was very isolated at the time, very isolated. And I still told her, even though I don't respond, please don't give up on me. And she never did. One day, my little dog that was always with me passed away. I relied on him for a lot of comfort, and the pain was excruciating when he died. I was searching for every nook and cranny for a way to heal my pain through therapy, breath work, anything and everything. The significance of this little dog was that my father passed away on November the 9th of 2016. I got Man the beginning of January 2017, and he brought me so much joy. It was like, he was so important to me because of the time that I got him in my life. My mental health began to plummet yet again. And this is when I started to attend some of the services that Gina would invite me to. But it never quite stuck how I wanted it to. So I was actively going, but I was looking for a feeling. I would go to church and I would be like, I don't feel anything. And I knew by then that there was something to feel. And I was searching for that, and I couldn't find it. So as I continued my mental health journey and getting connected, I was getting better on my own, doing things my way, and connecting with Gina, new friends here and there. I was attending socials with Shia Society, making more connections with other women through Bible studies and things like that. You know, just trying to get myself out. And so then there came that point where I was invited to be part of this mental health group. I was skeptical about it, but in my mind I kept thinking, well, all therapy is kind of the same anyway, so I'll just master this. Except what was different about this one is that it was faith-based. Anyways, so once I started this group, that's when things really started to change like I'd never seen them change before. I'd been through counseling and groups for a good chunk of my life when I was trying to be responsible for it. And I know now that all I was doing was putting a band-aid to feel understood. So we always hear that, feeling seen, feeling heard, and that's beautiful. But I needed more. I needed to feel seen, I needed to feel heard, and I needed to be healed. Being a part of that group and allowing God to be more involved in my life within that element was the best move for me. I had no idea how stunted I was until I entered a group therapy with it being faith-based. I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot, different therapists, different just types of healing modalities and containers. And it wasn't until I did this one that I was like, wow. Since I've gotten closer to God, I'm able to see how present He is in everything. And it really does blow my mind. I can confidently state that who I was last year in April 2023, it's not the same person as who I am now. We change all the time. We're always changing. But every year since my faith has just grown, I feel like I'm just a completely like new version of myself. I've gained a confidence that I feel like I've never had. I've experienced joy. I'm slower to anger. People that care about me are able to see changes in me as well. I've always been one to be able to see life through a different lens, but now it's nice to be able to see it through God's telescope too. Interesting part is that now I have friends, considering I was always isolating myself, meeting women and having them kind of like come into my life was always like, okay, like, you know, just, I wasn't used to it. It'd been a while since I surrounded myself around a group of people. So before I met Christ, I was constantly looking for love because it was something that I lacked as a little girl. And since Henry was my first boyfriend, I assumed that everybody would love me somewhat similar, but nobody ever did. Now that I have found Christ, I have all the love I've ever been looking for, and it's been here all along. I just needed to look for it. I think another part of this that I've come to fall in love with is how He's always teaching me and showing me things, even the times that I don't realize it's a lesson. Just because I found Christ does not mean that I don't struggle with my mind. I struggle every single day. People have this thought that Christians think that they're perfect, and that is not the case at all. It's literally a constant battle. It's always a struggle. There is no perfection. That doesn't exist. Only Jesus was perfect. So it's just literally dying to your old self. Sorry. So I'm going to read one of my favorite scriptures. Matthew 16:23 states, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it." I love that one so much, because we really do have to let go of ourselves. And once we start to like shed that and start living for him, you don't want to look back at where you came from. Doesn't mean you won't, you know. There is so many times that I miss me. I miss the impulsive, like, wow, crazy me that just is like down for anything. And when I look and I think about what God has done for me in my life, how he's given me new eyes to see things, just, it's amazing. It's so beautiful, like how I can actually see him, like, I guess, needle and threading in my life. He's always been doing it, but now I can just like, it's like I have new vision. It's wild. It's oftentimes that I think to myself, who am I to share my story? And then that makes me realize that this is all part of it. It's a constant battle, and I have to hold those thoughts captive, because the enemy will lie to me and tell me I shouldn't be speaking on these things. These last several months, the enemy has been at work with me, and I've just been in partnership with him, thinking like, oh yeah, you're right. And, you know, separating myself and just thinking that I'm doing the right thing, when really just because it's a good thing doesn't mean it's a God thing. It's mind-blowing. There's so much, and it's exciting. The idea that there is so much is exciting, but that the idea that there is so much can be overwhelming. So when I go through these modes where I think like the old version of me is about to come out, like with my emotions, anger, stuff like that, I realize that I'm not alone anymore. I never was. And now that I've invited the Lord into my life, he helps me with those battles. I'm not perfect. I saw my dog's behind me. Okay, so with that, I'm going to finish with a poem that I wrote. So, I have waited my whole life for a love that's true, a love that I would only ever receive from you. I met you once and I left your side. I tried to hide, so I ran from you as far and as fast as I possibly could. Yet you ran right there with me when I didn't think you would. Countless times I avoided you, and countless times I was scared to speak your name. I couldn't even think of you because I felt ashamed. How badly I must have hurt you as you saw it all and watched me, knowing long ago to set me free for a price you had bought me. A wolf dressed as a sheep whispered in my ear, and it lied to me from the start. It said I wasn't good enough. I was too much. Little by little, it was shattering my heart. I was shackled to my thoughts and a prisoner to my flesh, locked in my body. My spirit had no rest. I was saddened by life. So often I felt alone. The darkness ran through my blood and consumed the marrow of my bones. Then one day, I called upon your name. I couldn't stand it any longer, so I knocked on the door, and it opened, and you said, rest. I will fight your war. You forgave me for all of my sins and washed me clean, and once I claimed your name, I became the daughter of a king. You call me a masterpiece. How worthy am I? Now I'm down on bended knees, praising the Most High. It was through the thickest dark that I crawled so I could see the light. I was spiritually dead, but with you I'm forever free. All these days and all this time, you knew I would run back to thee. You said in your word, I have called you by name. You said you are mine. So please, Lord, take my hand, my whole life too. Finally, the time has come. I can't stop falling in love with you. So that last part's from my Elvis song, and it's kind of a song I was listening to during that time, and it just sort of went together. Anyway, so that is only just part of my story and how I started to make these changes in my life. You know, I made some pretty big changes. God is so good. He is so good, and he has changed so much in my life. And it's all in the fine print. It's all in the smaller details. So I think that the beauty of it is seeing the things that he's doing with the people around me. People that I never thought would like I prayed for them, you know, in my mind I'm like, yeah, God's a good God. He's going to do it. But no, like once I saw him do it, I was like, oh my gosh, like how quick it is like to kind of forget how big he is. And he's bigger than you could ever possibly imagine. As big as you think he is, he's bigger than that. He exceeds our understanding. And when you think of something that is not comprehensible, that's big. And I love it. It's beautiful. So that's just what I wanted to share. Say bye, Joel. Joel, say bye.